You're watching Open Agenda. Here's our host, Joe White.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. In the studio with me today is Dr. Joe Venosa. Thanks for coming out, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
So we have a lot to cover. We'll start with the City Council.
Yeah.
This meeting was on January 13th, 6 o'clock meeting. You attended the meeting, correct?
I did. It was quite the meeting, and it was quite long, about 4.5 hours, I think, when all was said and done.
This was the second reading of the expansion of the density from 40 units an acre to 80 in the central business district.
Correct.
What was the reaction from the community?
Well, it was mixed. I think no one was surprised at the fact that the majority of the council voted for it. Many have been on record for quite a while. There was a lot of pushback, though, from community members who specifically talking about the fact that as a city resident, what this project is going to do is effectively subsidize a luxury apartment complex for upwards of several $1 million. That's going to have other downstream effects on tax rates, on passing costs to renters, on costs for city services.
Well, what some people have said, this is going to enhance the inventory of available housing. What do you say to someone who's making that argument?
It will advance a small percentage of available housing. However, those 200 units collectively do very little to the broader housing crisis, and they do, let me be clear, nothing for the affordability crisis.
Well, and there's been some terminology bandied around. I want you to explain this. Affordable housing, market housing, and luxury housing.
Right.
What are they, and how does this project fall in there?
Sure. The definition of affordable housing in the modern context, at least as it equates to modern, current-day Maryland housing, is that housing that costs no more than 30% of your monthly income.
Okay.
Now, it's fair to say that a substantial amount of people in our community pay far more than that per month.
Because our per capita is right around $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month. Is that accurate?
Something to that effect, yeah.
So somebody shouldn't be paying more than maybe $1,000, $1,200 a month?
Theoretically.
Okay.
You're right. So the problem with this is, initially when the project was being sort of sold to the public, some people were saying first that it would be affordable housing, or that it would help with the affordability crisis, and then other people were even inferring that it would actually help with homelessness.
Okay.
Which I never understood, because nothing in this project does anything regarding that. If anything, you could make the argument that it will take away city services that go to those people who need it.
Okay.
But recently, Brad Gillis, the co-owner of the company that's theoretically going to be receiving this subsidy, has said, well, there are many different definitions of affordability.
Okay.
And that is technically true.
That is, yeah.
What's affordable for me might not be affordable, to somebody who earns less, and so, but I think the fact that we can't actually pinpoint if this affects regular people, in the sense of the numbers, I think that's the concern, because the market rate numbers that they are now finally releasing range from $1,800 for a studio to $2,500 for a 2 to 3 bedroom apartment. I think even in the context of our state definition and in our local situation, I don't think those rates are affordable for many people.
Well, if we use the same math that you just spoke of, and say it's $2,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment, then that means someone should be earning, I guess, in the neighborhood of about $7,000 a month. So you're talking about $84,000, $85,000 a year. Is that
correct? And what's interesting about this discussion is, for all the talk about helping or solving our affordability crisis, on the other hand, many of the proponents of this project, whether they're members of the Gilkerson company or their allies or just people that are sympathetic, at the same time they also say that this will draw in the young urban professionals, yuppies, who the area does need, particularly in the medical and science fields. Now, to be clear, I don't disagree, and others don't disagree, that we need those fields. But if you're bringing in high-end or upper-income people, often from the outside, that still does nothing for your local residents who need the affordability.
Yeah, the ones that's supposed to open up inventory.
You're just stepping over someone,
Well, and even the hospital's developing the piece of property just on the other side of the river.
Correct.
That actually had to get an exception to the density, but there they have their own infrastructure, their own parking.
And it's funded by them.
And it's funded by them. Now, you brought up a subsidy because, I don't want to confuse people. The density increase was its thing, but
Yes.
there is a subsidy attached to this, or
Attached
maybe
to
even
it.
more than one, correct?
Yeah, so it's a tax abatement, right?
Okay.
And which basically means for upwards of 20 years, the taxes that are associated with that property are waived.
For the city.
Yeah, from the city, yeah. Which
And is there some state funding? Is there state
correct?
grants?
Yes,
Okay.
there is some, but it's a very small portion of what the overall cost
Okay.
will be. Yeah.
It seems like a lot of the common sense folks we've spoken to, we're being sold a lot of dreams with not a lot of evidence that this is actually going to flow through the way that it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think in some ways you could call it a nothing burger in the sense that it does nothing broadly for the county-wide or even city-wide housing issues, but it does beef up a segment of downtown that could help certain people. I'm of the belief, and I think others are, though, that it just doesn't help the majority of the community, and it certainly doesn't help people that are below a certain income level.
Well, and there's been a lot of argument about the parking ramifications here, and we've talked a lot about it on the show, but this does have broader implications to people who not just live in the city, but live in the county, who visit the city from other counties in the area.
Yeah.
There's not a traffic study that's independent.
Not only that, but the city council made the conscious choice to actually vote on this at the last city council meeting rather than wait a month to get the study.
Okay.
Which is odd to me because, okay, so you wait a month on it, but at least you have the study that demonstrates what this will actually look like or what it'll affect.
One other aspect that came up, this was the first city council meeting where the new rules for public speaking and public comments came up.
Yeah.
What was the reaction from the crowd for that, especially to Deshaun Dowdy, the city
Sure.
council president?
Well, let's back up first because prior to the public reaction to those supposed new rules, they preemptively announced that they were backtracking on a lot of them.
Okay.
Which is good because
Which ones did they backtrack on?
well, they went back on the 2-minute limit and they put it back to 3.
Okay.
Okay. And then they also were going to have the ability to retain virtual comment.
Well, what was the mood of the crowd directed at the city council as a whole?
Well, I think there was a lot of anger among the crowd because they viewed it not so much that they were against certain limits, but that they were done unilaterally, it would seem, between Council President Deshaun Dowdy and some of the city staff, and there wasn't really a robust reasoning given. Now, what's interesting is, in the past few weeks, some council members on social media were bringing up there had been a series of sort of Zoom bombings where inappropriate imagery or content was posted during Zoom, but it's funny that no one made that an excuse during council comments, meaning they never really officially brought that out as a reasoning at this past meeting.
Well, and I've heard it brought up that even if they were going to change these rules, that there's supposed to be a public discussion and a vote from the city council to do that.
Correct.
It can't be done.
It actually violated the city's charter, and I think this ties back to so many of the current issues and why there is such, I would say, widespread distrust and frankly disgust at some of these recent events. Is there is a tremendous lack of transparency emanating from the city council, not just the county, not just the city council president, but from members of the city council that don't seem to either know or follow their own rules. For example, there was a question that the mayor proposed at the last city council meeting to get clarification on whether or not one council member could vote virtually who was on vacation in Florida.
So you had a council member vote virtually on this last session?
Yeah.
And what was the answer to that
We
inquiry?
never got it, or at least the mayor, it would seem, never got it, but it's my understanding, and the mayor at least has said that he can confirm that it is against the city charter or the city council's rules to take a vote virtually.
Thank you for the update. I'd like to spend some time talking about the county council meeting. This does seem like to be a time of the year where there's a lot going on, but there's also especially on the county council side. There's a lot coming up with budget season.
Definitely.
Stick around another segment and we can talk about that.
Sure.
So stay with us. We're going to talk about the county council meeting from January 11th, as well as some of the early initial stages of the budget season process beginning. So stay with us and we'll be right back.
The Whitehaven Ferry, located about 20 minutes southwest of Salisbury, is one of two ferry boat crossings on the Wicomico River. The Whitehaven Ferry connects the peninsula between the Nanticoke and Wicomico rivers, locally known as the West Side, to Mount Vernon in Somerset County. The Whitehaven Ferry provides an important shortcut between Salisbury, Princess Anne, and Point South. A ferry in one form or another has provided service in this area going all the way back to 1688, and it's believed to be the oldest continuously operating public ferry operation in the United States. The ferry ride across the Wicomico River only takes about 5 minutes. Although it's a short trip, the views of the water, the historic town of Whitehaven, and the marshes along the shoreline are spectacular. The ferry traverses back and forth continuously throughout the day, and if you're on the opposite landing, it only takes a few minutes for the boat to cross and pick you up. The Whitehaven Ferry, which has a maximum capacity of 3 cars and 6 passengers, is powered by a diesel engine and runs along a heavy cable beneath the water's surface. If you're boating on the Wicomico River in the vicinity of the ferry, please stay well clear because the cable is pulled up to the surface as the ferry boat transits back and forth and can snag your outdrive or propeller, causing great damage or even worse. The ferry boat has the right-of-way at all times and is privileged under the inland navigation rules as a vessel restricted in its ability to maneuver, which is visibly indicated on the ferry's masthead during daylight hours by 3 vertically aligned geometric black shapes depicting a ball over a diamond over a ball. After dark, or in conditions of limited visibility when the day shapes can't be easily seen, you'll see 3 vertically aligned lights configured as red over red on the masthead. Before your boat continues its journey up or down the river, it's best to wait until the ferry lands on either bank to ensure everyone's safety. The Whitehaven Ferry is absolutely free and runs 7 days per week year-round, but is closed on county holidays. The ferry's hours of operation are adjusted seasonally, and there are times when the boat is out of service for repairs, or when weather or river conditions cause operations to be temporarily suspended. So, it's always best to check the Wicomico County Department of Public Works website before leaving home, or you can call the ferry hotline at 410-543-2765 for a status report. So, kick back for a few minutes and enjoy the trip across the Wicomico River on the Whitehaven Ferry, as our forefathers have done for more than 330 years. This is Mike Goldberg for Open Agenda. Back to you, Joe.
Welcome back to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. In the studio with me still is Joe. Thanks for sticking around.
Thank you.
So, we ran into a little bit of Mother Nature with the county council meeting. It was supposed to be on Tuesday, January 11th, but it got pushed back.
Yeah, a bit of a weather challenge, yeah.
At the meeting, which they ended up having on the 11th on Thursday in the evening, the first public hearing was about the capital improvement plan. A lot of people say CIP. This isn't something the county council votes on right now. I was at this meeting. It was just a public hearing for folks who have had a chance to read it. It was submitted by the county executive back in December, to at least start to voice their opinions. It was interesting that some of the opinions, including mine, I took the time to get up to speak, was to, hey, look, let's not decide on these very important capital improvement projects until we have an idea of what the state's going to do with their $3 billion deficit.
Yep.
I think there's at least several county council members who are looking to move this back a little further. The earliest they would do it is in February.
Yeah.
It was interesting, later on in a work session, Director of Finance Pam Olin got up and said, when you move this back, it makes her job really hard. I think for all of us right now, the job is kind of hard.
I think better her to do that hard job than being up in Annapolis doing the budget right now.
Yeah, it's. I think one of the scariest parts is, and maybe even the Fruitland Primary School really exemplifies this. This was a project that the county executive and the county council put a lot of work into last year, figuring out how to finance it, getting it approved, getting it bonded, and then the state just basically punted on it and said, "Look, we're going to need you to forward fund our $26 million part of this bill." It's huge.
Well, it is a real, it's still something too that I personally am kind of perplexed by, given that other local school funding projects haven't been touched.
Yeah, like
Now,
Somerset County.
Yeah.
There's something going on there.
Yeah, and you would hope, because I believe new appointed delegate Barry Beecham is on appropriations. So
he just did start.
He just did start. So, but you maybe there would be, some possibility. We don't know. Maybe nothing. But I think this is going to be an interesting budgetary session in the sense of what can our Eastern Shore legislators do or not.
Don't forget too that at this last election cycle, our county executive made it very clear she has the ear of the governor. She's works with the governor.
Yeah, positive relationship.
Yeah.
She said.
I mean, doesn't it seem odd that, just 2 months ago, this was a positive thing? And this is for education, no less.
Yeah, I am surprised that this has transpired, at least up to this point. And I would hope that if our county executive does, in fact, truly have that kind of good relationship with the governor, that perhaps she's able to do something to help fix this.
One other very controversial topic that came up was Bering Creek Road, which is in Mardella. Some folks don't know anything about it. They don't maybe live in that area.
Yeah.
But the people who do
Yeah.
have very strong feelings.
I believe the best line to this was yours. You said, "This is a road that divides the community."
But Bering Creek Road is an example of, and this started before this county executive, before this county council, just
Yeah.
maybe a lack of vision, a lack of leadership. We have spent a lot of money on designs on this road. The state funding has had it on their list for about 10 years. It actually came off the CIP. The county executive took it off the CIP last year. And now it's back on.
Yeah.
And it's back on from a design phase.
Yeah.
But we just don't know where this is headed.
We
right?
don't, and it's interesting because up until a few months ago, I believe it was only Mr. Jim Adkins who would be the local voice to, sort of enunciate the fact that we're doing nothing with it. Basically, let's move on from it. But then there was a groundswell of support for getting it done. So
one other thing I want to cover in this segment was the comprehensive waste management plan. And we saw this rear its head last July.
the tipping fees, yeah.
The tipping fees, yes.
Yeah.
So the county executive in this current fiscal year's budget moved tipping fees from $67 to $100. The county council approved it. It really hit a lot of the folks and the trash companies like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
They had emergency hearing. They actually put in legislation to
They kind of scale it back, yeah.
But here's what was interesting, and this came up during that hearing or after the public comments, is we are moving through our landfill faster than even the last projections showed.
Yeah.
They're about to open up another cell, and it costs several $1 million to do so. Pam Olin, the director of finance, is basically saying, hey, with the enterprise fund for the landfill is broke.
Yeah.
We don't have the money.
Yeah.
It was one of those, bellwether type of events where do we start to pay more for tipping fees? Do we actually use capital improvement funds towards opening up the next cell? And at the same time, if we're opening up the next cell earlier, that means we're using the remaining capacity of the landfill sooner, right? One of the points that was made is that our tipping fees may be so low that we're actually taking in trash from other counties. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't work there, and then really ultimately you're led to just take the word of someone who's there who's asking for money.
Right.
So this is something that's going to impact you. If you don't own a trash company, you're probably paying someone to take your trash.
It is going to affect you down, yeah.
And if you don't pay someone to take your trash, you're a taxpayer in the county.
Yep.
It's going to impact you some way or another.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there were several other public hearings. They mostly revolved around the liquor bills that we covered.
That's right, yeah.
And I'd like to do one more segment, and when we come back, I'd like to discuss each of those.
Sure.
When we come back, we're going to discuss the 3 liquor bills that were the main focus of the legislative agenda from our county executive. Talk about the public comments and just how the votes came out. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The 3.8-acre Witipkin Park is situated on Witipkin Creek, about 20 miles west of Salisbury. The park is improved with a concrete boat ramp that provides easy access to the Nanticoke River less than a mile downstream. Vehicle and trailer parking is adequate relative to the park's use, and there's also a soft launch for canoes and kayaks, a small picnic area, and a porta-john for your convenience. Swimming is not permitted at Witipkin Park, as the currents can be dangerously strong at times. Witipkin Creek meanders through the salt marshes and adjacent pine forests of the Witipkin Wildlife Management Area. Just beyond the low-water bridge next to the park, the creek splits into two branches, the northern prong of which is longer, extending upstream for a distance of about 4 miles. The salt marshes along Witipkin Creek support a wide variety of wildlife, mosquitoes and green-headed flies included, and harbor many different types of year-round and migratory birds throughout the seasons. The upstream area beyond the bridge is best explored by canoe or kayak, but be prepared because you can expect strong currents at times. If you're operating a motorboat heading upstream, my advice would be not to go very far. At low tide, the water becomes very shallow in spots, and you may find yourself high and dry or sucking up mud into your motor. Trust me on this, I speak from experience. Just across from the boat ramp at Witipkin Park, you'll notice the remains of docks and boat slips, which in days gone by harbored commercial oystering and crabbing boats. But in the early 1970s, after the oyster population collapsed throughout the Chesapeake Bay, the dock facility fell into disuse, and now only ghostly remnants can be seen. One of the most interesting features of Witipkin Park is the quaint wood timber bridge spanning the creek immediately adjacent to the park, which is known as the Ed Taylor Bridge. If you walk onto the bridge, you'll get a magnificent view of Witipkin Creek and the wildlife management area. But please be very careful because there's no separation between vehicular and pedestrian traffic. Originally built in the early 1950s, the bridge fell into disrepair but was reconstructed and placed back into service in 2009. Ed Taylor, for whom the bridge is named, was a Wicomico County councilman, educator, and Korean War veteran who grew up in the Witipkin area and championed the bridge's reconstruction. Today, the bridge is one of his proudest legacies. For more information about Witipkin Park, please visit the Wicomico County Department of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism website.
Welcome back to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. Joe, thanks for sticking around for the last segment.
Absolutely.
First was a public hearing talking about doing a performance audit on the liquor dispensary. This was brought up to the county council about 2 months ago. The county executive and her staff has said that the state would pay for this for free. Get an audit done every year from PKS, who does the audit for the county.
Yeah. It's interesting because the first proposed piece of legislation that the county executive office was pushing, as you just said, was this performance audit, which would give the state of Maryland more control and oversight and micromanagement over what's going on with our dispensary. And then the following two ones were the opposite of that. They were so. What I mean to say is, this first proposal was viewed with some suspicion by certain members because, and I believe I'm paraphrasing Councilman Josh Hastings, but he actually referred to it as kind of a witch hunt by the county executive against the dispensary, who has openly talked about trying to privatize it, trying to sort of get more private entities to have access to the alcohol and liquor markets?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things, if you go back to the task force, the Greater Salisbury Committee and the Chamber of Commerce had a little over a year ago, they were asked, is there any suspicion that there is an issue with the dispensary? They were asked at county council meeting then, and it's been brought up since. No one is suspecting that the dispensary's not run properly. They've sent money into the county coffers every year.
Correct, and even Mr. Victor Laws, as a representative of the dispensary, stated at the meeting that they provide, I believe, quarterly financial reports.
Yes, the county council voted 4-2.
3-3 on that one.
Oh, 3-3.
3-3. Yeah,
right.
it was a tied vote.
3-3. So the letter of support will not go to Annapolis for this measure, but even in her comments after that. It was almost as if our current executive said, well, I'll get the comptroller's office involved. And it just seems threatening because, to almost get a state agency to just
Yeah.
be forced on them, unless you have knowledge of something going on.
That's the thing, right? Like, but to an outside observer, it would almost appear that the county executive has some personal vendetta against the liquor dispensary board. And I think Councilman Hastings, who is normally very measured and not prone to using heavy words like we are, he used the word witch hunt.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite striking. There's something more to this, at least from what is motivating the executive. What that is, I don't know.
Well, as our former delegate Carl Anderson said, we've opened the door and now we are walking through it. So,
Which brings us to our next two.
The nenext one was to actually give local control of the liquor board. So the liquor dispensary board is one thing, but we also have a liquor board.
Yeah.
But the number of dispensaries or the number of liquor stores we have in the county is set in stone right now. The county executive put forward to basically allow the local board to expand on that. Instead, right now, we would have to go to Annapolis and say, hey, we want to add one more or two more, or however many more.
Yeah.
This, again, did not pass. It 4-2 against, so no letter of support.
The previous piece of legislation is to audit, right, the board and their finances. And the second one is to basically take away any oversight.
Well, they're two different boards, too.
Well, they are, but I think the thing that is interesting about it is the county executive, right, in the future, can appoint board members.
Yes.
So the question
that is where they come from. They have to be approved by the governor.
Correct. So let's say you're in a situation where you have a county executive, not necessarily this one, but a county executive and a sympathetic county council that wants to give people who might be contributors or, just people that might have, let's say, less ethical relationships. I mean, there's very little oversight in that kind of a situation. So it could open the door, no pun intended, to Delegate Anderton, but it could open the door to some real possible abuses of that power.
Well, and the last one they brought up, which again did not pass, was the being able to separate a package store from a restaurant. Right now we have 3 of those types of cases. One of them is only open part of the year. At least for the time being, the council voted 4-2 to not recommend that separation either.
It did, although to be transparent, you brought up a really good suggestion during your public comments, right?
Well, I think one of the frustrating things I had, and I was very much in support of getting rid of the monopoly, but not the liquor dispensary as it stands. I'm a business owner. I like the fact that there's free enterprise and business get choice. But at the same time, we do have, it's a highly regulated product, alcohol. It's highly taxed. The state of Maryland taxes at 9%. The county doesn't see any of that, but the county did receive anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million each of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
We're talking about money leaving us. This is money that's here.
Right.
What irritated me when we had a task force that was not forced to have open and public meetings, they didn't have to advertise the meetings. They didn't have to keep minutes.
Yeah.
So for all we know, 5 years from now, we need to go back and reference why those decisions were made. It's not there.
We have nothing, right?
Well, here we are only 1 year later, and there was references made to this task force, but there's no legal paper trail of what was said and who was there and who voted for what. And yet, here's an opportunity to as a case study, to look at one topic, and say, hey, but let's do this task force in the right way.
You put it very well. You said, Delegate Anderton said, well, Delegate Anderton has said, let's walk through the door. And you said, okay, let's walk through the door with full transparency and do it the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really good suggestion. I don't necessarily fully agree that it has to be done now, but in the end, it's a moot point because the council
they voted
they voted it down.
And I'm not saying we have to either, but if we're going to, let's do it that way.
Let's do it the right way
in the future.
I agree. Yeah.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for chatting.
A lot to cover, and I
stay warm out there.
Yeah. Thank you for watching this episode of Open Agenda. We'll be back next week with another new episode.
I know what I'm doing, man.